In 2003, BBC Radio Wiltshire, as it was then called, joined in the National Restoration campaign by spending a day with the Wilts and Berks team, travelling from the Oxfordshire border to the junction of the canal with the Kennet and Avon at Sevington. This is the fifth and final part of the series of abridged recordings of the day. First, it's the final part of the afternoon show with BBC presenter Graham Seaman, who's alongside the canal at Wootton Bassett with Kelly Stooke. John Marshall is heading for Sevington with a radio car and completes the journey around tea time, uncovering the restoration story of the Wilts and Berks Canal.
Before I do what I'm actually here to do officially, just remind people about traffic at the moment.
Yep.
The reason I want to do this is because on my journeys this afternoon we have observed that there's major problems on the M4, and as a result the A3102 down from Wootton Bassett through Chippenham has also been chock-a-block. And the reason I bring it up now in particular is because about 3 or 4 minutes ago I had a phone call from Keeper's Lock, who are on their way to you at the cut at Wootton Bassett. See, I've picked up all these terms.
Yeah, very good, yeah.
But they are within yards of the exit slip on the M4.
Okay.
And they may be running a little bit late. So what I'm imploring everyone who's listening to you this afternoon to do is, if you see some people who look like Keeper's Lock opening their window shouting, "Out of my way, I'm a canal musician," please get out of their way. They've got to get to Graham urgently. Will you do that for me? Will you? Are you sure? Promise? Graham, I'm now down at Stanley. This is another fine mess you've gotten me. That's a very lousy imitation, isn't it? And Stanley is not too far from Chippenham, not too far from Carn. It's sort of a bit south of Kelloways, it's a bit north of Laycock. It's not very big at all, but it's quite important as far as the Wilts and Berks Canal is concerned. And I'm joined by Tim Priest, who is with an organisation called CARP, which is the Castlefield Canal and River Park project in Carn. Tim, what's the big significance of Stanley as far as the canal was concerned?
Well, there was an aqueduct that ran over the River Marden.
Was it a big aqueduct, you know, hundreds of feet high?
No, it's not a large aqueduct. It has two channels. It's only a small compared with some of the others that are around the canal system. But the significance is basically that on one dark, stormy night in...
Hey, have you got any sound effect music for this,
Yes.
Graham? A bit of ooh for dark and stormy? No, don't bother.
No. One stormy night, the story goes, early in 1901, a great gaping hole suddenly appeared in the aqueduct. And rather like pulling the plug on a... Excuse me.
Oh, I thought my pacemaker was going just then.
Rather like pulling the plug on...
Out of the bathwater.
out of the bathwater. The whole of the canal system below Swindon basically disappeared overnight.
So, because there aren't many locks between Swindon and sort of here, are there?
No, not generally there aren't, but certainly there are 2 locks the other side of Stanley here, but the water would have slowly seeped through from there.
It's quite a few miles, certainly. Now, you're involved with this organisation CARP, who, presumably because the word canal is in your title, are quite keen on getting the canal back into Carn. What exactly is CARP all about?
Yes, it's actually Carn Castlefield Canal and River Park Association, which is quite a mouthful, so we call it CARP.
Yeah, I was going to say, you need a nice short snappy title.
Yeah, but generally, if anyone knows Carn, there is a small park up by the town hall called Castle Fields, and the main impetus of CARP is to actually make that into a desirable area for people to go to. At the moment it's quite run down, and needs some work done to it.
And the canal would actually go through that park, would it?
Yes, the canal terminates in Castle Park. There is the town lock, which the canal locked up into the river Marden, and the wharf was actually on the river in Carn. But in the 70s there was a large storm drain put through that lock, and it's probably going to be impossible to move that. So the terminus of the canal in Carn will be in Castle Park.
Now, I've got to confess, where we're standing at the moment in Stanley, when I came out here a few weeks ago to actually do some planning, because actually, Graham, some planning went into this programme, we found a bridge on the road and then pulled into a little car park where we're standing now, and then found what would have been the railway line running into Carn, and found another bridge. I thought, well, between those two must have been where the actual canal ran. And in some bushes about, 20 feet away from me, is a bit of a soggy, earthy little bit that hasn't been restored or anything. But the excitement of actually finding that and thinking, this is where it went, was really quite exciting. Presumably, Tim, as far as the whole project's concerned, you find it quite exciting finding what bits were and what you can do with them in the future?
Yes, certainly. I enjoyed greatly going along and discovering what was there and trying to work out where it went and so on. Yeah.
You've just been over actually to the aqueduct itself with your digital camera, haven't you?
I have been over there to take a few photographs. There isn't much of the aqueduct standing.
It was very disappointing, a pile of stones basically.
Yes, it is. Pile of bricks, I'm afraid.
Do you know when work on that is planned? Because there's lots of locks and bridges being done. What's the plans for that one?
There is no, as far as I know, there are no plans at the present moment. Obviously it's on land belonging to various people, and I don't think there's been a lot of contact with them.
That'll be all sorted in the future.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks for coming out here this afternoon, Tim, and thanks for telling us a bit about carp. I certainly didn't realise that was going on. I knew the canal went into Calne, but I didn't realise how desperate you were, or not desperate, yes, desperate to get it back into the centre.
We'd love to get it back into Calne, I think, yes. We would really love to.
Thank you very much. And I expect, Graham, after your sort of afternoon by the canal side, you can fully understand why.
Yeah, it is beautiful. You can see, the thing is, even if you see a stretch of the canal which has really had no work done to it, and it's just sort of standing there, stagnant water, whatever the case may be, you can start to visualise how fantastic it would look once a bit of work has been done on it. It's something you were saying earlier, Kelly.
Yeah, just imagine what it would look like with lots of lovely, colourful flowers, all the water clear, going along in a boat, relaxing with the family, bit of music maybe on. Oh, it'd just be a dream, wouldn't it? And on a lovely sunny day like this,
don't forget
needs to be restored.
Don't forget those canal side pubs.
Oh yes, yeah. Thought you might remember that.
We've got those sussed already, John, don't worry.
Excellent. Can you just imagine sitting there with a nice drink in front of you? Lemonade, of course.
I was wondering how long it would take on this show before John got around to that subject. We've tried to keep him off. We've done really well. I was on a bet. 40 minutes to go. I've lost my money.
Nearly said cold beer then.
Anyway, Vic Miller's been with us today. He's been supplying us with drinks and stuff like that. We are not worthy, Vic. Thank you very much for all those things you've been doing. Really appreciate it. And he's here. He's the one with the broken boat. Can we have a big R for Vic? We hope you get it fixed, Vic. But don't cry.
He's got a great camper van.
Go and give him a cuddle in his camper van, will you? Otherwise we won't know what to do with the man. All right, it's time, I believe, right now, ladies and gentlemen, for us to have a little rest with 3 songs.
Your afternoon 3 break starts here.
Send us away on a boat.
I've no idea. We're on the canal today. We're at the Wilton Barks Canal at Wootton Bassett in the Cut, as John has already told us. And we've been talking to a lot of people from Canal Art. We're going to be talking to Keepers Lot, play music later on. You know, the whole business of regeneration, whether or not we'll actually see the canal really seriously being used more extensively for commercial or for business, that kind of stuff. It's been a fascinating story so far this afternoon, but of course it's really just part of something that's going on all weekend. And it's really a whole bigger picture generally, because this sees the start of Heritage Weekend, and that means we're being encouraged to think about many at-risk structures. One building, for example, is the Chain Test House, which is in Swindon. You may never have heard of it, but if you've ever shopped in the outlet village, you've probably seen it. John Marshall has been to meet up with Andrew Vines, who's an advisor with English Heritage, to find out why it's considered to be in danger.
Well, first of all, it's in danger because it's one of the railway buildings, as you say, which is disused. But it's also a very important part of the historic railway works. As you know, the Swindon Railway Works is one of the most complete early railway works in the world, and a very unusual activity took place here in that they tested the strength of chain and rope that was made for all sorts of reasons by the Great Western Railway. And as you can see if you look through the windows, there are various bits of the original building internally and the machinery in it which is still there.
So when we talk about a building that's at risk, it's not just the actual bricks and mortar, it is what's happening inside the machinery. That also adds to its importance.
Yes, it's really a combination of disuse and disrepair that causes a building to be at risk. And if there's no immediate prospect of it being reused, then obviously that increases our concern for its future.
But is there any way that this could be reused as a chain test house? I mean, if anyone else came in, how could this be reused?
Well, I think if there was anyone that was interested in using it for chain testing, ourselves and the Borough Council would be very interested to find out. But I think realistically, some of the machinery here is probably only usable as an industrial artefact, and it's there as for its own inherent interest. But I mean, I don't think that stops the building itself being creatively reused, and perhaps as part of the reuse of the other historic buildings which adjoin it on this part of the site.
Because if we look over to where there's the shopping outlet centre, there's still machinery actually in there, but it's a totally different use. How much equipment are people allowed to take out if they want to reuse it?
I think it very much depends on the scheme that's being promoted and the creativity and flexibility of the architect and the client, because clearly if there is flexibility, it's possible to work around a lot of historic fabric and integrate it in an interesting way, and you see that in the outlet village, because the whole shopping experience is rather enhanced by the fact that you're shopping in an unusual and historic building.
But this building next to us, which we've agreed is at risk because it isn't likely to be used for a little while, people can't see the artefacts at the moment, they can't go in there, they don't know what it is. Do we really need to save it?
Well, I think we do if we're concerned about the value of the historic railway works in Swindon as a whole. And I think it's one of Swindon's most significant sites in historic and perhaps cultural terms as well. And at the moment we're working with the Borough Council and with the New Swindon Company to promote a master plan for the remainder of the site that hasn't been developed, so that we can give the whole site a future, and that will integrate modern development with the historic aspects of the site to produce something which we think will make a huge contribution to Swindon in time.
These historic buildings tend to be graded in some way. What does the grading actually mean, and how do you grade them?
Well, grading is an acknowledgement of its importance. There are 3 grades, Grade 1, Grade 2 star and Grade 2 in descending order. The vast majority of listed buildings are listed Grade 2, and that's about 94% of them nationally. This building is listed Grade 2 star, and it means it's particularly rare, and that's a reflection of the function that's gone on historically inside it.
If they have a higher grading, are you more likely to get government bodies putting money into restoring them?
I think it's fair to say that increases the possibility, yes, among national funding agencies such as the Heritage Lottery Fund and ourselves. We have to give priority to buildings, that's right.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Are there any plans for this in the pipeline, or is it totally, we don't know what's going to happen with it?
Well, I think the plans will come out of the master planning exercise that we're hoping to commission shortly with the Borough Council and the New Swindon Company. And hopefully out of that process, as well as looking at where new building can go on the site, we're also looking to promote solutions for the remaining buildings that haven't found a new use.
But at the moment, this poor, sad old building is just going to sit on that at-risk register until some money comes from somewhere or some plans come from somewhere.
It is, but I think we're reasonably confident that that will happen. And in the meantime, obviously, we will work with the owners to monitor the building and make sure it doesn't deteriorate further.
Do the owners have a legal responsibility to make sure it doesn't deteriorate?
I do. For the repair and purchase of buildings which are falling into disrepair, and the object of that is usually to take the building out of one ownership and put it into another ownership where something might be done.
So this one isn't going to fall down before it gets saved?
I don't think it is, and I don't think that sort of scenario is what is appropriate here. I think, bearing in mind what's happened already on the site in terms of reusing of buildings, we see no reason why that cannot continue and buildings like this continue to find a new future.
That's Andrew Vines talking there to John Marshall, and Andrew is an advisor with English Heritage. Now, on the subject of English Heritage, it's a big weekend, isn't it, Kelly?
Definitely, yeah. All over the country until this Monday. You can go to lots of places that wouldn't necessarily always be on show, like private homes, churches, and also other places open to the public, like the Science Museum and Art Gallery, who are actually putting on special displays. We can go along and have a look at some of the things they've collected over the years. For example, at the Swindon Museum and Art Gallery, they've got a Roman silver bowl on display and lots of Victorian goods. And Corsham School's open, getting involved with Heritage Weekend, and also the Science Museum in Wroughton. They're just some of the places you can go along to at this Heritage Special Weekend. It's actually called Heritage Open Days 2003, and the idea is that you can go along, take your children or your grandchildren and really learn about our heritage, and they can ask questions. There'll be experts on hand that wouldn't normally be around. So if you wonder what exactly is open to you this weekend, I would suggest going to your local library or somewhere like that, inquiring. It goes on until this Monday, but obviously certain places will shut before then and others will open towards that end of that time. So go along, make the most of this lovely weekend and learn something new every day.
Sounds good to me. Right, in a few moments' time, live music from Keeper's Lock. First of all, let's find out what's happening on the roads.
BBC Radio Wiltshire. Travel.
The Wiltshire Barks Canal at Wootton Bassett, and we're glad to say that Keeper's Lock finally arrived. There was a bit of problem earlier on because of all the traffic problems we've been hearing about during the course of the show, but Kelly's been finding out about Keeper's Lock, and stand by for some great music because it's just come in.
Definitely. I've never heard of canal music.
I'm not allowed to sing with them, is that right? But I can dance.
I did ask, and there was a lot of umming and ahhing, but in the end they said, nah, it's not our style.
I'm musical, me.
Yeah, right, okay. Graham, stick to what you're good at. That's what I suggest. I'm going to talk to the real geniuses now, which is Keeper's Lock. A lovely group. They're very friendly people. They've just passed me one of their CDs and said, go home, have a listen to that. I love it when people give me freebies. That's very nice of you. Made up by 3 individuals. That's Sue, Barry and John. I'll just talk to Barry first of all. Hello, Barry.
Hello there. Nice to see you.
Tell me what the 3 of you do in Keeper's Lock.
Keeper's Lock really sings songs and tells stories all about the great era of canals, right from their very first inception in the Roman times, right the way through to their demise in the 60s. And we cover everything.
What instruments do you play?
Right, well, Susie plays the baran, which is the Irish drum, and John plays the guitar, and I don't play anything at all.
That's the best way, isn't it? You can be the star at the front.
That's it, yeah. Tell the stories and link the songs together.
So how did you form?
Well, we actually formed quite by accident. Sue and John have been folk musicians on the circuit, very popular for the last 16, 18 years. And then one day, Terry Kemp on the Kent and Avon Canal at Devizes was very keen to raise money and said, why don't you come along and perform some songs? So we did, and then it dawned on us that we didn't actually know any canal songs. So down the library we went through every known book, and there are very few traditional canal songs. So we learnt those, and then we decided that the repertoire wasn't big enough, so we started writing our own canal songs.
So what sort of places have you performed in?
Oh, we perform all over the country, from Lancaster, Lincoln, Slough, Exeter, you name it. If there's a canal there, we'll be there performing.
And what sort of people come along to watch you?
Everybody, not only people with boats, which are the obvious audience, other boaters, but because generally the things that are organised are for the general public. So a lot of our audience is general public, like Little Venice on the outskirts of London at Paddington, on the Regent's Canal. They get something like 12,000 people there over the 3 days, and of course there's only 150 of those are actually boaters.
And you just passed me one of your CDs, very kind of you. Tell people about how they can get hold of these CDs and find out more information about you.
Well, it's very easy if you've got a computer, particularly if you're connected to the website. Then you just go www.bbcradio.co.uk keeperslock.com, and you'll find us there. You can hear some of our music, find out more about us, and of course there's the phone number, and you can always give us a ring and we'll send you a CD in the post.
You're very friendly people. You're going to perform a number for us in a moment. But first of all, I thought I'd have a quick chat with Sue, if I may. I know that John doesn't want to talk to me. He calls himself the moody musician. There always has to be one in every band, doesn't there, Sue?
Absolutely.
Does he have rock and roll moments? Does he throw his guitar around?
Oh, indeed he does. Yeah, he really is a frustrated rock musician. I think back in the 70s he used to play heavy rock.
All right, it's all coming in out now, isn't it? He's our very own Liam Gallagher of this band. He didn't like that at all. I'm just looking at some pictures of you guys when you've done some performances in the past. Your costumes are gorgeous. Just talk us through what they're like.
Well, these are the costumes or the dress of the boat people that really became their sort of uniform, if you like. It dates from the beginning of the 1800s. And I have to say that the bonnet is particularly good because it keeps the rain from going down the back of your neck when it's raining, and it keeps the sun off. And if you pull the brim of the bonnet right down, you can sight up the canal when you're steering, and it's really very good. John wears the cap because he's just a boater, and Barry wears a bowler because he's the gaffer.
What I'd like to hear now is a hit from you guys. A brilliant song. Which one are you going to perform for us?
Right, this is the one on our latest CD, because we've got 4 CDs, but the latest one we've just given to you is called Canals and Cargoes, and this is a song called Dirty Boaties, and it's a term that was levelled at the boaty people by the people who lived on the land, because they thought they were either water gypsies or very dirty, horrible, disgusting people, which of course they weren't. They were lovely.
Of course, you put it straight. Okay, take it away, guys, when you're ready.
They called us dirty boaties, they called us scum, but they never get to know us. So how come when a boat is clean we work night and day? Running boats keeping going, never stopping is our way. Now our dad Joe was the number one, earned his living by the ton, carrying coal in his body and boat. Lord of all while he was afloat. They called us dirty boaties, they called us scum, but they never gets to know us. So how come when a boat is clean and we works night and day? Loading boats keeping going, never stopping is our way. And she was both wife and mate, bearing kids, hard work, this was her fate, through all our troubles and our strife. Never a harsh word in all her life. They called us dirty boaties, they called us scum, but they never gets to know us. So how come when a boat is clean and we works night and day? Loading boats keeping going, never stopping is our way. Now life on a boat, it could be rough, so all of us kids was brought up tough. 14-hour days for we were the crew, hated by the townies as we passed through. They called us dirty boaties, they called us scum, but they never gets to know us. So how come when the boat is clean and we works night and day? Loading boats keeping going, never stopping is our way. But the toughest was me brother Jim, the town he never get the better of him. His wooden go made him hard and strong, but me like no other he could do no wrong. They called us dirty boaties, they called us scum, but they never gets to know us. So how come when a boat is clean and we works night and day? Loading boats keeping going, never stopping is our way. never stopping this our way.
Hey! Keeper's Lock, that was fantastic. Thanks, guys. Really, really good. Well, we've had a fantastic time here at the Wilts and Berks Canal. That's about it from us. We'll be back, of course, on Monday with Lauren's Lyrics. Have a great weekend, heritage or otherwise. Until 1 o'clock then, from all of us. Bye-bye!
You can't have failed to notice that it's Restoration Day on BBC Radio Wiltshire. We'll be looking today at the project to restore the Wilts and Berks Canal. We've had a team out and about on the canal all day today. Let's join John Marshall there now. Very good afternoon, John.
Hello, it is gorgeous, you know. It's been one of the most fantastic days for doing a programme like this. I really felt sorry for all you people stuck in the studios, slaving over a hot PC, trying to get the news and things up together when I was out enjoying myself.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you had a lot of pity for us.
I think I thought about you once. Or maybe twice.
Yes, thanks, John.
I'm at Foxham, the locks here, and I'm joined by Luke Walker, who's a work party organiser, which is a posh-sounding title, but basically, in your free time, for the fun of it, you just actually try and get work done on this canal. Is that a way of summing it up, Luke?
That sums it up. I have the privilege of having a very dedicated team who will keep turning up every Sunday, and have been doing that for as long as any of them can remember. At least 8 years we've been working on the canal in this area. And these guys expect there to be work to do when they turn up every Sunday. Whatever it be, it could be structures. In the winter it'll be tidying up the hedges and laying the hedges. In the summer it'll be putting concrete in the ground and rebuilding lock chambers like this one we're looking at here.
Now, just down the road at Pewsham, they're actually doing some locks at the moment. I think they're some of the biggest locks on the canal. And but there's so many people there, we couldn't get the radio car anywhere near. So that's why we're at Foxham, where it's a bit peace and quiet. But when you want to start work on a lock or on anything on the canal, what's the first stages? How do you go about it? You don't just turn up and get working, do you?
There's a lot of things you need to bring together. In the early days, when we were working on this lock chamber, it was first find it. It was a dent in the ground, a very vague memory of where the canal might have been, so it's dig and find out what's there. We also have to obtain planning permission from the local authority. If we want to impound water, we have to have conversations with the Environment Agency. But it usually starts, the physical work on the ground starts. If we can find historical photographs, we'll use them, but you have to start by digging and finding where we're going to start from. Scrap-bashing and digging.
As far as the actual work is concerned, 100 years ago, when the canal was there, everyone knew it was canal. Now a lot of farmers will have sort of used the bit of land. What's the sort of negotiations that go on with that to sort of get access to start the working?
Here particularly we're very fortunate at having some very good, very supportive, very accommodating landowners. Ian and Carol, who own this lock chamber that happens to be in their garden, are very, very supportive, and then the two farmers further up. So we've got 3 landowners together, makes about a mile of canal. Through here, the canal's still basically there. It looks like a soggy dent in the ground. So it's not usually too hard once we've got permission from the landowner to start on that. But there are sections of the canal which have been filled in, where the farmers have busily been growing crops on it for 20 or 30 years now. And those sections are the sections we haven't yet tackled. We've done the bits where we can, rather than taking on the bits where we can't.
Some heavy negotiations will start very soon on those bits. Looking just slightly up towards the north, there's a fairly odd-looking bridge. Very briefly, why is that there? It doesn't look very traditional to me.
It isn't very traditional. It's a build-from-scratch bridge, which again was done by our talented team of volunteers. We're very fortunate to have a professional civil engineer who designed the structure for us. It's a highway standard bridge, though it's just for the farmer. Historically, he used to have a culvert, a crossing, like a ford, across the line of the canal. In order to take that crossing out, we had to give him another way of getting from one side of his farm to the other. He wanted a bridge that was wide enough. We needed a bridge that could fit into the landscape, because it's quite a steep hill. And that's the solution we came up with.
And that's it. Brilliant. Thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. Rachel, I'm on my way next to Semmington, which is where the Wilts and Berks join the Kennet and Avon, and we'll just see where it all starts or finishes, depending on which way you look at the canal.
OK, John, thanks very much. That's John Marshall. We'll be back with him in about an hour's time.
Well, BBC Radio Wiltshire's Restoration Day is nearly at its end. We've spent much of the day at the Wilts and Berks Canal, which is undergoing restoration work at the moment. For the final time today, then, let's join John Marshall, who is now by the canal, lucky thing, in Semmington. John, good evening.
We've done it. We've got here. We started at the county boundary with Oxfordshire this morning. We have traced most of the route of the Wilts and Berks Canal, and we are now standing next to the Kennet-Naven Canal at Semmington. And there is actually, I thought it was just a place where the boats turned round, but there is actually the old bridge which would set off northwards up the Wilts and Berks Canal. I am joined by Colin Fletcher, who's with the Melksham group of the Wilts and Berks, and also with Mike Goodenough, who's with British Waterways. We'll turn to you in a minute, Mike, because you actually own the Kennet-Naven, as far as I know, and eventually you'll probably end up owning the Wilts and Berks as well, so we'll find out about that. But Colin, this is, of course, a very important part on this this stretch of the canal, because it is the join, it's where the two canals got together. Where did the canal go from here? Presumably up through the police station or something?
Yes, it did. It ran up beside the A350 through Melksham. At that time, of course, Melksham hadn't grown out as far as the canal, so it was in effect running through countryside beside the town. From there it ran on to Laycock and continued to Pewsham, midway between Chippenham and Calne, and then on through back up to Foxham and Dauncey, where you've been earlier today.
What's your particular interest in the canal? Is it just that you like to sit and watch it, or have you got a boat?
I've got a boat. I'm involved in, I make my living from the Kennet-Naven Canal, but I love canals anyway. My best holidays have all been taken on the canals. And sitting beside the canal is great if you can ever manage to find time to do it.
I suppose being chairman of the local group, you've actually got quite a lot of admin to do.
Yes, there is. It wasn't expected that there would be paperwork to do in restoring canals, but I'm afraid there is. It comes into everything.
What do the people of Melksham and the surroundings actually feel? Is there a good lot of support for it, or do the people think it's a load of nutters who just want to have a bit of fun?
Probably a bit of both. We've certainly got nutters. In fact, it helps to be a nutter, I think, if you're getting into canal restoration. But the support is growing. The example of the Kennet-Naven, of course, gave us tremendous fillip. It's been such a success commercially and in recreational terms.
Well, let's turn to the man who actually owns the Kennet-Naven. Mike Goodenough, is it fair to say that British Waterways own this canal?
It is, yes. British Waterways own it on behalf of the nation.
And the canal itself, although it goes in this little turning circle. Oh, by the way, I must just say, throughout the day we have been passed by Hercules aircraft, we have been passed by trains, by heavy lorries. For the first time we're being passed by a narrowboat, which is absolutely brilliant. Sorry, Mike, when the new canal, or when the canal is restored, will it actually go through this old bridge again, or will you have to do something fairly serious with Melksham?
No, we know for certain it won't go through this bridge again because of the development we see behind us. And what's currently underway is a study to find out how we can take it directly through the centre of Melksham, which would rejuvenate Melksham and provide a tourist destination there, jobs, and the route is likely to leave the Kennet-Naven Canal just west of here.
Now, when this canal is finished and you then own it, will that be a liability, or is that something which the British Waterways will look forward to? Will it be an asset?
Well, canals don't make money, unfortunately. We hope that sufficient income will be generated to cover the costs of maintaining it, so it will be neither a liability or an asset.
OK, let me put it another way. Is it something that you, as an organisation, want to happen?
Yes, we're very keen for it to happen, because if you look on the map, if we could only reopen this section and the Cotswolds, it provides a wonderful southern ring, which people are already calling the Wessex Ring, coming down from the Midlands right the way down here, going out into the Thames, back up into the Oxford and Grand Union. It would be wonderful.
Absolutely brilliant. Mike, Colin, thank you very much indeed for your participation this afternoon. I'm so pleased that we have finally got down to Semmington on this gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous Friday afternoon. And as far as restoration projects are concerned, I reckon we've beaten the whole country, you know.
Well, John Marshall there, messing around by the canal side, ending our coverage of BBC Radio Wiltshire's Restoration Day on the Wilts and Berks Canal.